In this video, I am going to show mathematical built-in functions in MS Excel. If we are using formula or functions in Excel, you must begin with an equal sign. As you can see from the formula bar, we have so many functions library like AutoSum, recently used function, financial functions, logical functions, text, and all these functions which are built-in functions, and these are built-in functions in MS Excel itself. And from this functions library we have a math and trigonometric function. So when click on it, you will see a huge list of built-in functions under the math and trigonometric mathematical functions. And this list can be classified into 11 types. They are also listed here. The first one is numeric function, mathematical function, rounding function, matrix functions, random numbers, conditional sums, advanced mathematical operations, trigonometric functions, exponents and logarithms, factorials, or extras and miscellaneous. So these are the 11 categories of mathematical and trigonometric functions that you just saw on this drop down list. So let's see one by one, and we will also learn a few functions from each category. So the first one is numeric functions. Under the numeric mathematical functions, we have 4 functions like absolute, sine, GCD, and LCM. As you all know that the first function is absolute, which returns the absolute value of the specified or the supplied number. So we will have, while we typing absolute, if we type any functions in MS Excel, you should begin with an equal sign. So equals A, B, S. You can see an argument like this, a number. So every functions will have at least one, or there are some functions which doesn't occupy with any of the arguments, but majority of the functions have at least one argument. So here absolute or ABS function have a single argument, and which is the number you should supply out. So that is what the supplied number mean for. So we have to pass any number like a positive or integer or a decimal number or a zero, any number on this argument, and it will perform the modulus operator of those supplied number, and it will give the result. So I already done with few examples like here. So look at on the formula bar here. So as you can see that I passed -1 as argument for the first example, and it returns the modulus value of -1, which is 1. So ABS of -1 is 1. The next one is a positive number. I supplied a positive number, and which is a decimal point number also. So absolute 6.5, it returned positive number of 6.5. So absolute is a function which returns the positive or the absolute or the modulus value of the argument which we passed it. The next function is sine. Sine function returns the sign of the supplied number. That means if we supplied a number as an argument, the MS Excel will check whether the number is tending to -1 or +1 or 0. That is, if I passed equals sign of -8.8, as you know that -8.8 is tending to a negative number, right? And it is tending to a -1 number, so it returned -1 as its sign. And the next example, I passed 0 as an argument, so it returned 0. It neither tending to a +1 or a -1, so it tends to the number 0. So it resulted or returned 0 as the result. The next one is equal sign of 8.8. So as you know that 8.8 is a positive number, so it always tends to a +1. right? So it returned positive number. The next argument is equal sign of 0.000 of 1, and which is also a positive number since it has a lot of zeros in front of 1. The Excel will check whether is it a positive or a negative or a 0. So it is a positive number, so it tends to positive 1. And what about the next example? So it is performing a subtraction operation within the argument, that is equal sign of 6 minus 10, and which we know the result, it is minus 4, right? And since it is a negative result, it always tends to a negative number, so it returned as negative 1. The next function or the basic numeric function is GCD. So what is a GCD? It is a greatest common divisor, and it returns the greatest common divisor up to 255 numeric values. If any of the supplied numbers are decimals, these values are truncated to integer. So if we passed any decimal number, it will neglect the decimal part. It will only consider the integer part, and it will be truncated also. So here, as you can see, that an example on formula bar, that is equals GCD of 3, 6, 9, 81, and the greatest common divisor is 3. The next one is LCM. LCM is the least common multiple. So it is also returns the least common multiple of the arguments that we passed on. So as you just look at on formula bar, the example is here, equals LCM of 15, 10, 25, and the least multiple is 150. So you just illustrate with few more examples as you are on, and find out the GCDs, LCM, and the sign, and also the absolute of the arguments that you supplied. A note is here, LCM and GCD is used to find the greatest common divisors and the least common multiple. So if you have supplied any negative numbers, that is equals GCD of any negative number, it will result error, because GCD and LCM will not support for negative numbers. It will take only the positive values as integers. So please note that do not supply any negative numbers as argument of GCD and also LCM. And not only the negative numbers, but also you should not pass any strings or any numbers, strings or any characters, like LCM of A. It will also show error, or it will also display an error. So please note that LCM and GCD is used to find the greatest common divisor and the least common multiple. So if you have supplied any negative numbers, the error can happen. So this comes the end of numeric function.